I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with a 3-minute cattle market update for Wednesday, May the 10th, where a guy could get whiplash trying to keep up with this market. We're just getting into the middle of the week and already seeing huge swings up and down and back and forth, and it's really hard to keep up with. You look at the board so far this week, live cattle futures on the June contract. Monday was down 52 cents, but all the other traded months were up sharply, $2 or more. But then on Tuesday, your June contracts were down $2.80, and all the others were too. Ending the day on Tuesday at $124.97. Now a $22 basis from the top of the established market last week on cash there at $147. Wow, and I realize that we're just starting to get into May good, and that's a June contract, so they can jack around with it a lot between now and then, but you would think it would be a little truer than that. But feeder cattle futures on the May contract, Monday was up $4.52 after everybody expected, including me, and I'll own up to it. I was completely wrong. I figured the board and the cash feeders and everything would just be down hard from the get-go this week, and because it had gone down nearly $10 on the board, finishing up last week's 2 sessions there. But Monday bounced up $4.52 on the May contract, and all the others were sharply higher too. But then Tuesday, down $3.77. These guys in Chicago, that's the only guys that like it. The day traders in Chicago are really enjoying it because they really don't care whether the market's $1.50 or 15 cents. As long as it's going up and down in big swings, they've got an opportunity to make some money. But down $3.77 on Tuesday. End the day on Tuesday at $144.52. Your August feeders are at $152.15, and that market's really slipping away for all these guys that's got all these cattle turned out that are going to be grass yearlings this summer and fall, and they would really love to cash in on that. But your fat cattle market, I'm not going to say that it's not going to be higher again. I think that we've got about as good a chance of these fats being higher again this week in the face of everything, with the $22 basis and the board being back and forth, but most recently down, by the fact that these packers still need cattle to fill all these out front contracts for meat that they signed back earlier in the spring. And you watch, it'll be a long time before they get themselves in this kind of a mess again. But they can't seem to get enough product to fill these orders, especially for the higher grading, quality grading product. But Tyson is still out front. They're desperately needing to get the first pick of the litter on these cattle that are on the show list that these guys have for sale. They still need to get more product secured and get those cattle killed and get those contracts covered. And they're out front. Normally they're in the back. So when they're out front, it just messes up the pecking order for everybody else. It's just like anything else. When you got 3 or 4 guys involved in it, when you got one that's usually bringing up the tail, and now they wanted to jump out in front, it ruffles everybody's feathers. Tyson's out there blowing Creekstone's customers out of the water and everything else, and they're not taking turns. These guys aren't getting along like they should. Now normally they get along great, but when one gets short bought and really has to go out there, it starts ruffling some feathers up. And I know for a fact that Tyson has gone into smaller farmer feeding operations that they've never hit on before, and buying cattle that are mostly reserved for either Creekstone or the Northern Plains regionals. And when they do that kind of messes things up. It might cause a little bit of hard feelings. We may get some extra demand out of this for a long time. We'll see what happens. Your slaughter so far this week, 230,000. That's 9,000 better than last week and 7,000 better than a year ago. El Reno, Oklahoma, on Tuesday there they had calves. Had 5,000 head of them. Now their calf market was lower. Now on Monday we come in here, and I told all you guys, if you watched me over the weekend getting ready for this week, I told you that these markets were going to be a foot lower on a Monday, and I was absolutely wrong. Your Oklahoma City National Stockyards at 12,500 head. That's one thing I was right on. You can give me one, that they were going to have big runs, because when this market looks like it's about topped out and everybody else thought it was going to go lower too, then they start bringing those cattle to town because they want to squeeze everything they can out of it. And we did have big runs in your big volume Monday markets. Oklahoma City 12,500. Their feeder steers called steady to $4 higher, but the feeder heifers steady to $2 lower. I figured they'd both be $8 to $10 lower. But a lot of wheat cattle coming off. And maybe a week or two early, the market feeling like it was topping out, probably pulled some cattle, but more than anything, they had an opportunity with some things drying out a little bit after a lot of wet conditions to get those cattle moved and brought into town. It was a good opportunity to do that. Joplin 8,100 head. Not a lot of yearlings in Joplin, but the story there was their calves, especially their steer calves, $7 to $10 higher. Heifer calves $2 to $5 higher. A lot of Northern Plains interest in Joplin because they just don't have any fall calvers up there in the Northern Plains, and they need some cattle right now to put into the growing yards and to put into their starter pens in those feedlots that put the days on them, where they're going to get into a spot where they don't have any cattle to sell. So a lot of demand from the Northern Plains and Joplin there, because they had a lot of 400 to 650 pound calves, and they're hard to find this time of year. But then, like I said, on Tuesday in El Reno had 5,000 head. They just had calves on their Tuesday sale, had 5,000 head of them. Their calves were steady to $3 lower, but if you look at the Cattle Market Central market report there, the automated market report pulling right from the block, you'll see that those calves looked a little bit lower than that, than what the government market report called them. They look a little more like $2 to $9 lower rather than steady to $3 lower, but nevertheless they were some lower. Now, we talked about all the demand that they had for calves in the Northern Plains. Phillips, South Dakota there, an individual quote, 2:45 in the afternoon on Tuesday, had 96 head of 448 pound steer calves, bring $2.13 a pound. That's 3 minutes, and we'll talk to you on Friday.